When the CN Tower was built, a 26-year-old Iranian engineer was hired to supervise the construction. More than 40 years later, Jamil Mardukhi is still on the job. As the chief structural engineer for the CN Tower, he is constantly monitoring the effect that wind, rain, and pollution have on your tower's exterior. Today, in our series Hands On, about Toronto's Iranian engineers, our Mary Weens takes us to the top of the CN Tower.
Okay, good morning everyone. Welcome to the CN Tower. Bonjour. Bienvenue à la Tour CN. How are you doing today? Doing good. That's good to hear.
The rapidly telescoping view from the elevator is breathtaking, even if the tour guide has listed these details 1,000 times.
On the right-hand side. Just down below, you have the Ripley's Aquarium and the Steam Whistle Brewery and Roundhouse. We're currently traveling at a top speed of 22 kilometers or 15 miles an hour, so we'll be at the lookout level in 58 seconds.
Did she get all the facts right?
All of it? Perfect.
The tour guide couldn't have known she was taking the tower's chief structural engineer along for the ride. And Jamil Mardukhi supplies details about the tower that no tour guide could ever know. Like the story about building the sky pod at the top of the tower. The jacks used to pull up the formwork and the reinforcements for the sky pod kept slipping. Were there times when you weren't quite sure? You were working on a problem no one had worked on before.
All the times. One problem was when we were trying to all these levels. Yeah. The jacks were slipping, they were not working, so bring new cables from Europe, from everywhere, and change the jacks.
So you had to keep trying.
Otherwise, if you couldn't make that, this was just another chimney or something in the air.
Every skyscraper has two goals. The stated one, in the case of the CN Tower, to give Torontonians exceptionally clear telecommunications signals. CBC's own radio and TV antennas are perched on top of the CN Tower. The second goal of every skyscraper, to signal attitude, ambition, status, and prestige. The CN Tower sent that signal loud and clear. But the tower's chief engineer is much more modest, even though the tower is his life's work.
You're married to the CN Tower.
I am. I mean, out of luck, probably. It's not all
bad marriage.
It's not all talent. Out of luck, you get involved in a project like this, which is great.
Mardukhi was 26 when he arrived in Toronto. It was 1972. He had been working as a civil engineer back home in the west of Iran. Back then, his Kurdish region lacked even basic infrastructure, housing, roads, water, sewer. By the time Mardukhi came to U of T to do his Masters of Applied Science, he had more hands-on experience than any of his classmates. And he arrived just as CN was looking for a construction engineer on what would be the tallest tower in the world.
It was fate, yeah. I mean, I was introduced to this, for me, I was introduced to this project by my professor.
Tell me.
Professor Collins. He was my supervising engineer. My first job was supervising the construction. And all this area has changed. It was all dirt and the shorelines and
now it's
undeveloped area.
And now it's covered with high-rise towers.
With condo buildings. Even the Sky Dome. I mean, when we were coming down to the site, we were parking at the Sky Dome site. That was all a bare land.
It was a parking lot.
Available for construction parking. Yeah. We even had our concrete mixing apparatus and testing and everything right around that area.
You won't ever get that gift again in Toronto.
We never get that. The downtown Toronto, no way.
Yeah.
That's right.
And now the first question.
Crews poured concrete 24 hours a day, 5 days a week, shaping a concrete tower on a scale never attempted before. And with the longest elevator cables ever manufactured, making the CN Tower a tourist destination as well as the world's tallest antenna.
Elevation, I mean, this tower is not only for telecommunication, it's partly for telecommunication. There is just for tourism, for food store services.
Yeah. You're listening in on this story. He's the structural engineer for the CN Tower. Where are you from?
We're from South Dakota.
Oh, really?
Yeah, from the States.
And is this your first visit to the CN Tower?
Yeah, it is. It's sure is amazing.
A family of tourists have gathered around. A rare treat for a couple of twin brothers to meet the tower's chief engineer.
It's pretty cool. We can see it out of our hotel window. So yeah.
This is for. Be careful. It's a windy day, and this is where
What a wind!
What a wind! We call this outdoor observation level, and this is where you hear the sounds of the city.
Mardukhi's favorite visitors to the tower came in 2001, a group of protesters who climbed 1,000 feet on the outside to hang a banner.
So these guys were experts. They went up, and early in the morning I had a call from the president, just calm down. So when I came down, there was the police and there was the experts.
They were Greenpeace protesters angry at Canada's failure to ratify the Kyoto Environmental Agreement on climate change. Mardukhi sent up some building stages to bring the exhausted climbers back down to the ground. Before they were arrested, he shook their hands. Coming from a dictatorship in Iran, Mardukhi was delighted that in Toronto the protesters' journey ended with television cameras instead of jail.
But that I like. The police were there. More of their concern was for the safety of those people who have gone out. And I loved that so much. So we brought them all down and they let them take some pictures, and then, of course, the police got them.
The tower still takes an unrelenting pounding from the elements. After a major storm or earth tremor, Mardukhi pores over reports from wind engineers, analyzing the tower's movements.
And also for me, something special about me is I'm talking about CN Tower, not that I am a special person, because I have all that memory and I know how things were built, I know where things are, I know where the documents are, and I know the history of these studies. This shaped my future, basically. I mean, in the community, internationally, locally, in Canada. Basically, that's the pride.
Mardukhi reminds me that 1,600 people built this tower with their hands, crews that he says never get enough credit for one of the world's greatest engineering marvels. And if he feels pride, it's in being part of a project that signals Canada to the rest of the world. For CBC Radio, I'm Mary Weens in Toronto.